Welcome to the Power of Love show, sponsored by the D.D. Jackson Foundation, where we shine a light on loss and grief and how it impacts our lives. We are here to provide hope, resources, and a community so no one feels alone in their grief. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Power of Love show, sponsored by the D.D. Jackson Foundation, where we shine a light on loss and grief. We are here to provide hope, resources, and a community so no one feels alone in their grief. We believe that through the power of love, that nothing is impossible as long as you have that love on your side. I am TJ Jackson, and with me is my brother, Taj Jackson.
What's going on?
Taj Jackson. Yes. Jokes already. How are you, Taj?
Good. Hanging in there.
Good. We are live, of course. So if you are watching us on Facebook or YouTube, thank you so much for joining us and watching us. We have a special show with a special guest today. One that really confirms why we are doing the Power of Love show. Before I get into a proper bio for this guest, I also want to say you could be listening to us over a podcast, whether it's Spotify podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Todd, do you know any others? No, you don't know any others, right?
No, I was hoping you did. There are some.
Well, that's a Stitcher one?
I don't know.
Anyway, so if you're listening to us on a podcast, thank you for listening to us. Please make sure you leave a like or give us a great rating if you are enjoying it, and leave a comment. It helps us be found by others who may need this content. And yes, we here at the Power of Love show, we talk about things that are hard to talk about, things that are important to talk about, and are with the goal of helping and improving everyone in our society's lives. As for a disclaimer, we are not licensed therapists. We are just ordinary people who've experienced loss in our lives. We've been impacted by it, and we've learned from it. And we want to share our opinions in an attempt to help you get through whatever it is you are going through. Saying that if you need professional help, we urge you to seek it and to find it. Please do not rely on us. If you are just now discovering our show and want to learn more about our foundation, please make sure to go to our website. That is www.ddjf.org. Again, that is www.ddjf.org. And another thing you could do, on that website, you will find a link to the D.D. Jackson Foundation merch. That is also in the description box of the podcast, of Facebook, of YouTube, of all of that. So if you have been listening to us for a while and you want to rock some DDJF merch, please feel free to get some merch. The proceeds from that, after costs, goes to the foundation. Again, we are not, there's no one on our board that gets money. Everything we receive goes to helping those in need. That is very important for us and the foundation, and that will continue. Yep. With that said, one more thing I got to talk about before we get into our show is the D.D. Jackson Foundation official Facebook group, which, of course, you have to be a Facebook user, but it's a wonderful place. It's a wonderful community where people can, either provide help or support for others, or come to if you are going through things that you don't know where to go to. If you need that help, if you need that support, I strongly suggest you to go to the D.D. Jackson Foundation official Facebook group. Beautiful community. It's a wonderful community of people that's just there to help and want to help each other and uplift each other. Finally, there was one more thing. I got to do this. It's a super sticker. If you're watching on YouTube, and Facebook has stars, but YouTube has super stickers and super chats. This is another way to give back to the foundation with super stickers, super chats. Obviously, the proceeds go strictly to DDJF, and we want to thank you for that. So thank you so much for Batisha for doing this. And she says, finally figured out how to do this. Peace and blessings, and thanks for all you do. You are more than welcome, and thanks for supporting us. All right, Taj, I think it's time to, you know what? I guess I should check in real quick. How are you doing? Anything you want to tell us about going on in your life?
No, just fatherhood. Two girls.
Keep it short. Keep it simple.
Very short. Everyone can see it in my face. Someone in the comments yesterday said, looks like I'm falling asleep. I wasn't, but my eyes probably said I was. So
I'm not gonna lie to you, Taj. It did look like you were falling asleep.
I know. I was like, what are you I thought I looked refreshed.
You didn't, as in last week?
Yeah, maybe the days before were even rougher. Because I'm like, oh, I remember looking in the mirror and going, okay, it's not that bad.
Oh,
And
okay.
then I read the comments. I'm like, wow, maybe it was as bad as
Okay, but of course, Taj just had his second bit child. That's 2 under 3, which is quite a bit of work. And Taj was always the brother who needed the most sleep. So from him being the one who needed at least 10 hours of sleep, to probably getting 3 to 4.
Yeah, that's just not.
He is struggling, and April wants to add poor Taj. I know it's worth it though.
It is. It really is. That's the thing. So it makes it all worth it.
Miss Silent Siren, Taji needs an energy drink. Taj, do you drink energy drinks?
Well, now I'm actually coffee in the day or in the morning, and now I do have Gatorade like during the middle of the day. But it's only because I just like the taste of Gatorade. Let's be honest. Those electrolytes and stuff like that. But I'm sure they might help in some way.
Well, I don't drink energy drinks either, but I've only heard good things. Yeah. But Taj, one more thing before we do our bio, I should be mentioning and warning is I am in East Texas. The reception, the internet quality where I'm at isn't the best. So if I drop out, especially for those who are watching, my apologies. But Taj is ready to take the reins and continue on. Yeah. With that said, Taj, you ready? This is a solid show. We have a special guest. On today's episode of the Power of Love Show, we welcome author, archaeologist, photographer, and activist Laura Formentini. Laura, don't kill me, and correct me if I said it wrong. But Laura believes love in action is the catalyst for real change in the world. This belief has led her to travel the world and bring aid wherever she goes, be it in the form of raising funds to renovate an entire orphanage in Kenya, a rundown clinic in Malawi, or co-found an animal sanctuary in Sicily, Italy. Laura is also a nonprofit photographer who has worked with countless organizations around the world. She believes that love in action heals not only the world, but that it also holds the key to our own healing. Laura's new book, upcoming book, October 1st, 2021. She has a new book coming out called 21 Olive Trees, which is a tribute to her son, Blaise, who died by suicide. I hope I'm saying the name right. Laura, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Laura describes 21 Olive Trees as more than just a book. It is her personal journey of transformation, portrayed as a collection of letters and poetry she wrote to her son after his death. After each of the letters, 21 fabled narratives unfold, further illuminating this intimate look at coping with loss and acceptance that intrigues, inspires, and gives hope to readers looking for answers about life and death, and those who long to transform their grief into something beautiful. Without further ado, please welcome the one and only Laura Formentini to the Power of Love show. Laura!
Thank you for having me. Hello.
How are you?
Good. Yeah, you pronounced my name perfectly.
The second time.
Formentini, yes.
Okay. Yes. Laura, first of all, I just want to commend you for not only coming on the show, but for writing a book about your story and your loss and your grief. Our mother was murdered when we were young, and I've said this many times on our show. I was a reader, and I didn't have many. There didn't seem to be that many options that spoke to me. So whenever someone can write about their loss and grief and be vulnerable and tell their story, I have to commend it, because there's going to be a lot of people that this book is going to help. So before we get started, I just want to thank you for doing that and playing a role in helping others get through the most traumatic and difficult thing imaginable. So again, on behalf of my brother and I and our foundation and our community, thank you. I guess I will start, Laura, with saying, how are you doing?
I am doing well. Just finished writing this book, and it's been quite a lot of tears. a lot of pain, but I had to let the pain out somehow.
Mhm.
And it was a very cathartic way of letting go and letting all the emotions out. And so yeah, I'm doing really well, and it's incredible to actually see it finished, because I started writing it just 5 or 6 weeks after he passed. And I started writing poems and then notes, and then the fables came, just the idea of the fables of wisdom, and these fables are sort of a collection of pieces of wisdom that him and I have learned throughout our lives, living together, traveling together. And it's a very special book, very
Nice.
special.
Can I ask, when did your son pass?
When it was just 2 years ago, little less than 2 years ago. It was August.
In August. And then who
20.
suggested you to turn to maybe writing?
It was just, I just tuned into what felt right for myself. I said, I have to let it out. And I've always been a very proactive person, and very active and energetic. I had to really do something. I was going crazy because I had all that love and all those emotions inside of me stagnating. And I said, I have to do something here. I wasn't really necessarily planning on writing a book. I just had to write and let it out. And so it happened, and one thing turned to another, and here I am. So
Was there anyone or anything that you can recall that turned it into making it an official book to share with the world?
you mean a person?
A person?
Many people. I have had so many. It's almost like one thing led to the other. And I started, I found an amazing person who helped me to turn the abstract thoughts in my head into physical form. And then I've had incredible people who have helped me to put it all together. And it's just serendipity. It's just meant to be, I guess.
Yeah.
And I wasn't expecting to create a book. It was just my own stock energy that had to come out somehow.
Did you write before, Laura? Were you a writer? Did you?
No, I was. I had written a few articles, but nothing this serious. Because besides this book, I've also written two other books, and then I'm in the process of writing a fourth. And so it's just one thing led to the other.
Wow.
Todd, you look like you had a question, Todd, did you?
Yeah, when you were writing, because you said that you just started writing and just letting it out, did you put any blockers in yourself? Or did you say, I'm just going to write what I feel, or were you still scared of like maybe letting too much out, too much emotion?
No, I wasn't scared.
Okay.
I just had so much emotion, because the thing about my relationship with him, with Blaise, we were soulmates.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about so incredibly close and very similar. So we would finish each other's sentences, and we lived together on 2 different continents, because I'm from Europe. So we lived in Europe, we lived in America, and we had lots of fun times, but also a lot of confrontations. And so, and one of the things that I discuss in the book is that a soulmate relationship does not die. And it's almost like he's in a different dimension, but he's helping me. He's helped me behind the scenes to really write and give me the courage to keep going and write it. He's almost acting as a muse to bring this healing transformation into the world. But it's been a journey, and the book is about really my process, my journey of transformation, from the initial uncontrollable pain to all the setbacks that I had while trying to connect the physical aspect of him to the spiritual, and then eventually to hope and acceptance. So it traces my path. And it was really difficult, especially in the beginning. And but it takes a long time to finish a book. You know, you have to format it, you have to edit it, you have to, there's a ton involved. And so rereading a lot of the same things over and over was almost like reopening the wound every time. But I knew that it would eventually come to an end. And in fact, it did. And I'm really happy that I wrote it, because it's probably the most difficult thing that I've ever done. And I've put myself out there in the world a bunch of times, but this one, it was the hardest, because of course it's part of you. He's not. Yeah.
Laura, what is the significance of the title 21 Olive Trees? Where does that come from?
21 Olive Trees is so I chose 21 because he was 21 when he passed away. And I am planning on planting 21 olive trees at a healing sanctuary that I'm currently creating. I don't have the physical location yet. I was originally going to plant the trees at the animal sanctuary that I co-founded in Sicily. But then I decided to do something in the States because it would be more accessible to more people. So I'm planning on having 21 deep holistic healing modalities and invite as many healers as possible. And then I picked the olive tree because the olive tree is a symbol of all the things about him, of a symbol of wisdom, of peace, of immortality and regeneration. And the issue with the olive tree is that besides the Mediterranean basin, it only grows in certain areas of the world. So I'm left with either Florida, Hawaii, or California. So, but I'm sure that when the right time comes, I'll find the right spot. But it's very special. It's going to be a healing sanctuary with 21 olive trees, and each tree will have its own piece of wisdom, because the tree is about 21 fables of wisdom. And so each fable holds a piece of wisdom, like acceptance or different things. And so each tree will have its own scroll with a piece of wisdom that I'm planning on offering as my way of putting that love into action in a pragmatic way, let's put it that way.
That's beautiful. So I know this answer, but I'm sure many in the community or the listeners or viewers are wondering, how can we get this book?
The book will be available on October 1st, and it will be on Amazon. But it will also be distributed to various library marketplaces and educational institutions around the world. But mainly you can find it on Amazon. I'm also having the audiobook recorded by a professional narrator, and it's going to be really cool. And I'm really excited because, again, it's more than a book. It's a transformational story. It's how it really shows how anybody can transform darkness into something positive and beautiful. And it's in our power to do that. You don't have to give into your pain or despair. Yes, you do have to acknowledge that it's there, especially in the beginning, but don't give into it. It's in your power to evolve, transform, because we all transform. Life here is all about transformation. And your children, say, if you lose a child, the child has never left you. He or she has only transformed, because everything in nature does. And they have transformed. We will transform one day. nothing physical lasts. It's really what matters is the love and the joy and the hope that you put out there in the world that does. And the other thing that I realize is that the other thing that really does last is our relationship with the universe, in a sense that if we realize we recognize that everything is impermanent, we can accept not having tomorrow what we have today, but also having tomorrow what we don't have today. And so it just creates a lot of beautiful opportunities for us to really look at things from a higher perspective and say, I am not just a body, I'm a spirit in a body. And that is what is eternal. And so it's what really matters is, and that's the beauty of your show, is the power of love. Power of love can really take you anywhere. It can take you to the edge of the world. You can do so many things if you focus your energy on that, on love. And yes, there is darkness. Yes, there are narcissists. Yes, there's all sorts of crap out there, but you don't have to engage. You just recognize it. You know it's there. Don't engage. Focus your thoughts on the beauty that is there, because the media unfortunately always portray the crap because it's sensational stuff. And but there are so many amazing people out there in the world working behind the scenes, and we don't recognize those. We don't even pay attention to these people because the media don't portray those. So this loving action doesn't mean that you have to be a Mother Teresa or you're a martyr or anything. That's not the point. The point is stepping into the power of kindness, the power of forgiveness, the power of listening, the power of saying, I'm sorry. Those are, you can start with those things that are available to everybody every day. You can start wherever you are right now. And then you can speak up and say, if you're able to say, I am going to bring justice in public. Justice in public is loving action. So it's, speaking up for what you know is not morally sound for. So there are so many different opportunities to do that.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, you mentioned love in action. I'm trying to break this down so it's a palatable question. How is love in action healing? And how can we put love into action? Like, what's a simple way if we've never really figured ourselves of doing it, or if we want to start and we don't know where to start? So the first question is love. How is it healing? And then what advice would you give to someone who wants to put and learn how to put love into action?
Well, so I'm an author now and a nonprofit photographer, an activist, and I've worked in numerous countries around the world, from Africa to Central America and back, many different countries, also many countries in Asia. And it's like seemingly everywhere I go, I encounter ordinary people who have done extraordinary things. And it's something that I call ordinary heroes. Okay. They don't even know that they're heroes, but they've beaten the craziest odds, craziest circumstances they've come out of. And if they can do it, you can too. In this first world that is messed up, there are the communities in Africa where I've worked. I've noticed that there isn't much materialism, but the sense of community is incredible. They always have each other's backs. And so these are ordinary heroes, okay? And it's something that comes out of the philosopher Joseph Campbell said that he talked about the hero's journey. I believe there's a hero inside each one of us. We're all heroes. We just have to step into our power. And I think that it's my pivotal moment was when I had absolutely nothing to lose. You know, my previously lived life didn't appeal to me anymore. I had been an archaeologist. And then when I went through a divorce, both kids were in college. Well, one was in college, the other one was in film school. My parents had died. I had absolutely nothing to hold on to anymore that belonged to my previous life. So after I dropped off Blaise in Prague, he wanted to take film classes there. I embarked in the super long trip. It was a 6-week trip to Africa. And I left Prague in the Czech Republic, went to Dubai, and from Dubai went all the way down to Cape Town. And I didn't know anybody. I was just like a blank page. I was so ready to experience something new, but it was powerfully difficult because there was so much fear because I didn't know anybody. I'm like, oh, what about if this happens or that happens? But I did. And when I came back, and at the time I was living in Los Angeles, I was completely changed and completely renewed because of what I saw. And I said, I am going to do something because the poverty, the disproportion between poor and rich was incredible. And so in the first portion of my life, I was an archaeologist. The second portion now, ever since my first trip to Africa, I've become a nonprofit photographer, a fundraiser, an author, a column writer. I've been the sponsoring mom of more than 40 kids. I've been writing with a Plan International on the positive aspect of sponsorship. And, I've been a speaker for empowerment communities, sensitive empowerment communities. So, and why am I saying all this? It's not to brag, but I was never even on social media before I decided to write. So it's not because I want to brag. It's because I want to show that once I found myself, so I faced my fears, I found myself, I was able to put those boundaries in place and say, I am going to do something in this world. And that's when this love in action started. I really realized that there is so much need out there. And love in action really means loving yourself first, understanding who you are at the core, placing those boundaries. And then especially I'm an empath, a highly sensitive person. So I used to absorb everything good and bad. And so was Blaise. And so once those boundaries were in place, I was really able to unleash the creativity, the compassion, and I said, I'm going to do it. This is it. And it feels great. It feels amazing to have found myself and my purpose. So as far as love in action, there's a great quote by Dr. Albert Schweitzer, the German humanitarian of the early 1900s. He said, think occasionally of the suffering of which you spare yourself the sight. And now it's incredible how I've worked with founders of children's homes. We sometimes still call orphanages, the founders of animal sanctuaries, activists from all over the world who really had no resources, especially financial resources, but they kept going. Mm-hmm. And these people all practice love in action. Love in action is something that reminds me of Deepak Chopra's quote. He said, love without action is pointless. Mm-hmm. Action without love is irrelevant. love in action is the only way to discover who you are. And I could not agree more, because yeah. And so how can we practice love in action? Well, it really starts from who we are as people at the core. So are we drawn to animals? Are we drawn to a specific cause? Are we drawn to children? There's so many different things that we can do, and we don't have to do anything grandiose, in the sense we don't have to open an animal sanctuary, but we can start with our communities and being really helpful in starting with the communities, and then we can expand. And then one thing that I always recommend to people come to me and ask, hey, what can I do because during COVID, it was difficult. Obviously, people couldn't travel and it was really difficult. So I always say one of the most beautiful things that you could do is sponsoring a child. And since 2004, I've been sponsoring more than 40 kids.
Wow.
Yeah. And my very first was a little girl from Zimbabwe. And the beautiful thing is that you don't have to leave your house. You sponsor the child, but you also sponsor their community. And it's beautiful because you not only help a child, you help yourself to really feel like I am really helping a child in need, but I'm also learning about their culture. You're becoming more aware of what is out there in the world. The beauty of it is that at some point you can also set up a meeting with your child through the organization. And I've been working with Plan International, and it's a girls' rights organization based out of Rhode Island, and I'm authoring a book with them in 2022. So I'll be interviewing the adults who were previously sponsored as children, and so we'll talk about the positive impact of sponsorship.
Laura, can I ask you a couple questions, because that's very interesting to me. Which organizations do you use to sponsor, and how do we, who've never done sponsored a child, how do we know which ones are legitimate and which ones aren't?
So yes, so I've been sponsoring all these kids through Plan International, and that's planusa.org. And I trust them because I've been working with them for almost 20 years. And I'm going to write a book with them. It's beautiful because all you really have to do is go online, and you can obviously choose the age and the gender and the location. And then there's a certain amount per month that goes to the child, but also to the community. So the money that you send is going to be used for wherever it's needed in the community. Say there's need for a well or an irrigation system, or so. And that's and then the beauty, more beauty coming, is that every once in a while you get updates and you get letters from them that are a lot of the kids don't know how to write yet because, say, they're 4 or 5 years old. So the people from the particular office will translate the letter for them and send it to you, and you get to really learn about them and see how they live and what kind of food they eat, what kind of home they live in, and you can sponsor up until 18 years of age, but you can really continue sponsoring if you want to. I mean, it's that's when the contract ends.
Okay.
But then you can forge an amazing relationship that lasts a lifetime.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
Yeah,
that's beautiful. Okay, so I want to get back to your book, and again, 21 Olive Trees, not yet released. The pre-order link is maybe coming this week. That's the goal. And again, it's going to be on Amazon. Is it? I saw one question. I believe it was from Sophie. Is it going to be available in Europe and internationally?
It's going to be, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be everywhere.
One question that I actually been asking myself, and I saw on here from Casey. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Okay. going through what you went through, Laura, losing your son the way you lost your son. Did you ever, okay, so here's the question. I'll just ask the question the way Casey said it. How do you cope every day? Because as Casey says, she doesn't think she could. From the outside, it seems like such an undaunting thing to do that you seem to be able to, or you seem to be doing the best you can or the best possible way. So what advice would you give to someone who may be going through a similar situation? How can they cope every day?
Well, again, him and I were soulmates, and still are. And so it's almost like I still feel the flow of energy between him and I. And one of the things that has helped me tremendously in the beginning, and it still does, is meditation. So I meditate in the morning and I meditate at night. And that's when you have it's almost like that pathway to that sacred world of intuition and oneness that still connects me with him. And I get all these ideas, and out of the blue, after I meditate, it's almost like, hey, Mom, this is it. Write this, or Mom, do that. And I completely have his smile in front of me, and it's almost like, Mom, we're doing it. We're working together. And then I really feel so. I feel that it's what's happening. But I wanted to share one thing. So I was in Ethiopia when that happened. I was in Ethiopia. I was collecting stories of positive transformation for one of my books. And so I received a call that he had taken his life on the other side of the planet, which it was here in the States. And obviously, okay, so I was in the rural Ethiopia, and I had to obviously cut short my trip in Africa, come back and bury my son. I mean, it's just, I was going absolutely crazy. One of my guide's friends, his name is Asefa. It's a beautiful Ethiopian man whose wife was very pregnant that day, and she was due anytime. He said, I'll keep you company until your flight goes back to the States. And that because I didn't have anybody else, I was there by myself with this group of people. And so he held my hand and he said, I'll be with you all day until your flight departs, which was late at night. And I was shivering, obviously. I was like, how am I going to go back? It was an impossibly long trip because I was in the rural Ethiopia. And then from the rural Ethiopia, I had to fly to Addis Ababa, from Addis Ababa to Dublin, Ireland to Boston, and Boston, Denver. Yes. So you're talking about more than 30 hours. And so he held my hand and he said, I'll be there. I'll be with you all day. And he did. When he took me to the airport, I asked him, why did you do all of this for me? You don't even know me. And what he said to me was incredible. He said, I didn't do anything special, Laura. It was my human responsibility. And that's something that his presence that day filled my soul. It became my lifeline. It's thanks to him that I was able to make it on that flight. And that's what prompted me to write this book, because I feel like, just like he held my hand, I want to hold the hand of as many people as possible with this book, because it's my personal story and I know what it means. I know what it feels like, but it is in your power to transform anything. It is in your power. It takes time. Take care of yourself. Be kind to yourself. Write your feelings. Once you write your feelings, remember that you live in your own small microcosm, which is a part of a much larger macrocosm of opportunities that are infinite. So it's really up to you to say, I'm going to transform this too, because I have the power to do that. So I did it, and I feel like I feel his presence. I just know he's there. And that's why. And I know it's exactly what he would have wanted me to do. It would have said, rock on, keep going.
That's sweet. Timea has a question. What could you recommend to parents who've experienced a similar tragedy as you? How can they stay strong?
Well, this is what I try to say to everybody. Try to practice love in action. Love in action is really something that does heal. It does heal because it's almost, okay, so it's almost like you have, okay, so you're going through the unimaginable, which is what I went through, okay? But, and you have all this love for this child that is no longer there, okay? Just in the physical is no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
But you have all this love inside of you. So if you can take a tiny bit of that love and put it towards someone who's going through the same thing, or a cause, or an animal cause, or helping a child, sponsor a child. Sponsoring a child is a great way for a grieving parent to delve into another child's life and create and forge a beautiful relationship. And it helps them, but it helps you to really heal. And so that's what I'm talking about when I say love in action. It means taking that love that you have inside, that it's going nowhere, let it flow towards good stuff, and don't let it sit and stagnate, because it's all about transforming. It's all about evolution. It's all about, they evolve because they're not here in the physical anymore, but we're supposed to evolve too. We're not supposed to sit around and mope. I understand that it can be very difficult, because it was insanely difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're able to move the energy as fast as you can and not let it stagnate, that's what helped me.
Okay.
And I've seen a lot of people around the world who have come out of these really difficult circumstances who did the same thing. They just don't sit around. I'm not saying that sitting around and taking care of yourself is bad. It's great, but don't let it be like that too long, because otherwise it stagnates and creates depression.
That's a beautiful, beautiful answer, and one that I think was said in a way that's very we can grab onto. And I thank you for that, because that is obviously, as a parent, my worst nightmare, and I know that many people out there are living that. And I just want to thank you for sharing that answer. Okay, and then I guess, there's one more question that I've been seeing, and that was from Sophie, and then we'll wrap up. But Sophie wanted to know, did you go to a support group, or did you go to any therapy?
I didn't go to any support group or therapy. No. I've never been a big, strong believer in therapy, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Just not good with the sitting around and having to go back, and it didn't work for me. For me, what really worked was meditating. Did a lot of walking meditation and the writing. For me, that was the most cathartic thing.
Yeah.
That is not for everybody, for some people just love therapy. Sure. Go for whatever feels right for you.
Well, yeah, and I loved your answer, because writing is very therapeutic, and it's just about getting that out and not just letting it sit in, and like you said earlier, not letting it get stagnant on you. So
right.
That's beautiful. Okay, Laura, we are going to end this show. We want to have you back to talk even more specifically about the book when it is released.
Thank you.
There's still so many questions I have regarding the book, but I was holding back on those on purpose.
Okay.
But for this show, we are going to end it. But before we do, I want to know, or give you the platform of up to a minute to talk about whatever you want to discuss. It could be about anything that is on your mind. What do you want to leave our audience with today?
There's a really beautiful quote by one of my favorite authors. It's his name is Khalil Gibran, and it's like a Lebanese American author of the 1900s, early 1900s. He said, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself." And what I take from that is that even if we give birth to our children, they really aren't our. They have their own souls. They have their own paths, and so it's important to also realize that, especially for those who are going through the grief of suicide, the shame that is unfortunately going hand in hand with that. Try not to fall for, it was my fault, because not necessarily it was your fault. Blaise was an empath. It was really difficult for him to be here. And so a lot of times it's not necessarily mental illness. It doesn't have to be drugs. It doesn't have to be that. It can be the environment. It's environmental a lot of times. And so that's my message. That don't beat yourself up, because you did whatever you could, most likely.
Well said. Okay, so everyone, there you have it. Laura Formentini, the author of 21 Olive Trees. She has a website, lauraformentini.com. I assume, is that where people will, in the next couple of days, is that where people are going to be able to pre-order your book?
Yes.
Okay,
Definitely.
great. So again, it seems like it's going to be worldwide released. So make sure you guys keep an eye out, keep checking in on Laura Formentini. Put it in your calendar, a reminder to check back in. Instagram is at author Laura Formentini. If you want to follow on Instagram. Laura, we asked you before the show if you would be back in October when the book is released. We will continue to watch you and just be on your side and support you as you do your thing and spread your word and give your message. Taj, is there anything else I need to say or you want to say prior to closing this show?
No, this is just really, thank you for talking about this in general.
God bless you guys. I love your show. Thank you so much. It's an honor.
Well, Laura, thank you. And again, I think you are the first to come onto the show regarding this topic. So, that's what we're trying to do. Is there's so many different things that can cause grief and difficulties in life, and we're just trying to cover every base for those who may be going through it. But people like you help others move on and live a life of promise and of happiness. So I just want to thank you for doing your part.
Thank you. And looking forward to being on again.
Yes, we will see you in a couple months. And again, thank you and best of luck with everything.
Thank you.
To everyone else out there, we will see you guys next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Please be safe, Pacific Standard Time. Please be safe, practice gratitude, and God bless you all. Adios.